Hey guys, welcome back to the 40th episode of the Huggy Poker Vlog. I'm Huggy, and honestly, I cannot believe we're already at episode 40. It's only been about 10 months, but I just want to say thanks to all of you who have really helped support the channel, continue to make it grow, and I'm excited to see it continue. For this episode, we're going to head out to the lodge to play some 1-3 no limit holdem. We get seated at the 1-2 table to start, but it's not long before we get moved to the 1-3 game. I really hope y'all will stick around to the last hand of this episode though, because there's an interesting hand that I want y'all to see, and I'm curious for your feedback on how it goes down. With that said, let's jump into the action. "10 minutes in, we're under the gun and we straddle for $5. The first 4 players all limp into the pot and the button raises to 20. It folds back to us, and we look down at a not-so-great ace here, but I decide to go ahead and call since it's Texas, and I'm expecting some of the limpers to call behind as well, which would give us a great price. I throw in the chips, and all 3 limpers do the same, so we've got 5 of us heading to the flop. I check dark, and we get a pretty nice flop as it comes down 5-4-3 all hearts. So we've got a double gutter along with the nut flush draw, and it ends up checking around. The turn brings the jack of hearts, giving us the nut flush. I check again to see if we can get anyone else to take a stab at it, and it checks to an older gentleman in middle position who makes a small bet of $15. It folds back to us, and I call to see if we can get anyone else to join along, but that doesn't happen, and we're heads up now. The river doesn't change anything when it brings an offsuit king, and I check again, which in retrospect, I really don't like now that we're heads up. I think I should be leading here, given how weak his turn bet sizing was. Needless to say, he checks back, I show the winner, and we take it down. 3 hands later, we've got Queen 10 suited on the button. The same older guy from the last hand limps in first act, and it folds to us. I raise to $12 in position, and both the small blind and limper call, so we've got 3 to the flop. The flop comes down 10-9-9 with 2 hearts and a club, giving us top pair and a backdoor flush draw. The small blind checks the older guy, who leaves for $15, the same small bet size he made last hand. I don't see him doing this with the 9, so I decide to raise it up here, making it 40. What I'm not happy to see though is the small blind immediately cold calls the raise. The older guy folds, so we're heads up now. The turn breaks out with an offsuit 3 and the small blind checks to us. I figure he's either got a 9 or a draw of some sort, but I don't really want to bloat the pot here. I go ahead and check back, just hoping none of the draws complete on the river. The river brings the 3 of hearts, double pairing the board and also bringing in the flush. When he checks for a 3rd time, I think our hand is good, but I don't see too much value in betting here, so I announce our hand.
I just got 10.
It's good, and we take down another one.
Thank you.
Later that orbit, we've got Jack 5 suited in the small blind. The under the gun player straddles for 5, and it folds to the hijack who limps in. We don't have a great hand, but with it being a limp pot and us having a suited hand, I go ahead and complete. The big blind completes, and the straddle checks, so we've got 4 to the flop. It comes down ace, king, queen with 2 spades, giving us the second nut flush draw along with a gutter ball. No one's shown aggression so far this hand, so I decide to take the lead and make it $15. All we accomplish is bloating the pot though, as all 3 opponents make the call. The turn's a total brick with the deuce of diamonds, and given the amount of interest, I slow down and check. Everyone checks behind, so maybe we're all on draws or weak pairs. I guess we get a free river. We get there when it brings the 3 of spades. And I check again, hoping someone hit something worth betting at. I guess that was the wrong move though, as this is turning out to be one of the most passive tables I've played at in a long while. It checks through again, and we show down the winner. The very next hand, the +1 player limps in, and the next player raises to $12. We've got ace-king on the button, and we're definitely raising this one up. I make it $40, and we get cold called by the guy on our left yet again. It folds back to the original raiser, who folds as well, so it's just the 2 of us to the flop. The flop comes down Jack 10-3 with 2 clubs, giving us 2 overs and a gut shot. The guy on our left checks, and we c-bet for half pot, $45. We thankfully get a quick fold, and we take this one down. Later that orbit, there's 3 limps, and the small blind completes. We look down at king queen in the big blind, and I put in a raise, making it $22. The first 2 limpers call almost faster than I can make the bet. The 3rd limper folds, and the small blind calls as well, so we're 4 ways to the flop. It comes down deuce ace 4. It's not really the flop we wanted to see, but when the small blind checks, I decide to continue the aggression and take a stab at it for $40. We get a pretty quick call from the first limper, and the other 2 players fold, so we're heads up to the turn where we see the 9 of clubs, obviously not improving our hand in any way. We probably should be giving up at this point, but given all the possible draws out there, I guess I felt like it was worth taking another shot at the time, and I doubled the bet, making it $80. Our opponent pretty quickly pushes all in for almost $300 total, and there's clearly nothing for us to do here other than fold. 5 hands later, we've got 10-8 suited in the +2 position. Folds to us, and I raise it up to $10 with our suited 1-gapper. The hijack and big blind both make the call, and the 3 of us head to the flop. It comes down 6, 7, 9 with 2 diamonds, giving us the stone cold nuts with a straight, along with the straight flush redraw. The big blind checks, and I make a small continuation bet for half pot, $15. Both players call, so we're headed to the turn where we see an offsuit jack. Given how passive this table's been, I don't want to check here and hope for someone else to bet, so when the small blind checks to us, I lead again, making it $50. Unfortunately, neither of our opponents seem to have much as they both make the fold, and we take down a pretty small pot with this big hand. The very next hand, we've got ace-jack offsuit in the +1 position. The under the gun player on our right raises to $12. I haven't seen this player open at all, and now he's doing it first to act. Our hand's too strong to fold here, but I don't like raising either, so I throw in the chips to call. Everyone else folds, so we're heads up to the flop. And we end up hitting top pair when it brings 7-9 jack rainbow. Our opponent checks, and I put out a bet of $20. We get a pretty quick call, and the turn brings a total brick with the deuce of clubs. He checks to us again, and I up the bet just a bit, thinking he's probably got air and can't call much. I make it $30, and he snap folds. I show him the goods since we've been having some friendly conversation together, and that's the last hand we get to play before getting called to the 1-3 game. When we get to the 1-3 game, we top off our stack for a total buy-in of $600 there. We start off shorthanded with only 6 or maybe 7 players for a good chunk of time that we're at the table. And as soon as we sit down, we get an absolute rush of cards. The very first hand, we buy the button and pick up pocket queens in the big blind. There's a $6 straddle and the button raises to $25. We 3-bet our premium pair to $80 and it ends up folding around, so we take it down without a flop.
Good first hand. Shows queens. Thank you.
Hey, ladies!
The very next hand, our second hand at the table, we look down at ace-king on the button. There's a $10 raise followed by a call. We're 3-betting again, making it $60 this time. Once more, everyone folds and we take down another small pot.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
2 hands later, we've got pocket 8s in the +1 position. The first player folds and we raise it up to $15. The player behind us folds and the button 3-bets, making it $50. We're about even in stack size, and when it folds back to us, we're definitely making the call here. The run good just keeps coming at this table as the flop comes down 4 queen 8 rainbow, giving us second set. I check to our opponent, which I'm doing almost 100% of the time here, and he c-bets for 3/4 pot, $75. We make a quick call, and the turn shouldn't change anything when it brings the 5 of clubs. I check once more with the intention of check raising, but it doesn't come to that as our opponent massively overbets the pot by going
All in. Call.
Call announced. Flop to sit. Got 8s. No more action. That's right. Nice. Lucky flop.
The button shows 2 black aces, and our set is good. We more than double up just 5 minutes into this game.
Are you in a set of 8s and queens versus me?
Thank you.
Man, what a lucky day for you, sir. I'm on 2.
The very next hand, remember we're only 5 hands into this table at this point, we pick up ace-king suited under the gun. We raise it up to $15 first to act, and apparently we're running too hot because everyone folds and we just take the blinds.
Another one.
Look at that. You wouldn't want another
3 hands later, we've got pocket 4s in the button. There's a $20 raise followed by 1 caller. We've got a small pocket pair in position, so we're calling to go set mining here, hoping the rush continues. The big blind calls as well, so we've got 4 to the flop. And wouldn't you know it, the flop comes down jack, 10, 3. I guess we can't hit them all. It checks to the pre-flop raiser who c-bets for 50, and we obviously can't continue here. This one's heading to the muck. The very next hand, the under the gun player raises to 15, and it folds to us. We've got king-queen in position, so we're putting in a 3-bet, making it $50. The button and both blinds fold, and the original raiser makes the call, so we're heads up. We miss the flop completely as it comes down 5 deuce 9 with 2 spades. Our opponent checks to us, and this is definitely a board that helps our opponent more than us, so I'm happy to check this one back. The turn brings the queen of clubs, so we end up picking up top pair. We get checked to again, and now we're putting out a bet, making it $50. We get a pretty quick call, and we're heading to the river where we see an offsuit 10. We get checked to once more, and I go for some thin value here, putting out a bet of $100. Our opponent thinks for a few seconds and folds. We don't get any more out of this one, but we still scoop a nice pot. The next orbit, we straddle under the gun for $6. There's 3 limps, and the player from the last hand races to $45. It folds to the big blind who calls, and we've got the Phil Hellmuth special, so we're obviously calling here. The first 2 limpers end up folding, with the last of them making the call, so we've got 4 players to the flop. Unfortunately, the flop doesn't do anything for our premium hand as it comes down deuce 9-6 rainbow. We all check to the pre-flop raiser, who doesn't take too long to check back. The turn brings the king of diamonds, so now there's a backdoor flush draw possibility. We all once again check to the pre-flop raiser, who surprisingly checks back a second time. The river brings the 3 of diamonds, so now the backdoor flush comes in. The small blind checks to us, and I'm thinking that if anyone behind us had the flush draw on the turn, they probably would have made a bet. And with the small blind checking on the river now, it's unlikely he's got the flush here, as I imagine he would have let out if he had it. Given the passive play and the fact that I don't think anyone else here can rep the flush except for maybe us, I go for a pretty gritty steal here. I put out a bet of $125. The limper folds, the pre-flop raiser folds, and the small blind folds. Our opponent asks,
Love another set.
No, nobody else seemed to want it. I was just bet at it.
The very next hand, there's a $6 straddle, and it folds to the hijack who limps in. The small blind completes, we look down at 7-4 suited in the big blind, and I go ahead and complete too. The straddler checks his option, so we've got 4 to the flop. It comes down 10-6-7 with 2 hearts, so we've got second pair, no kicker. The small blind checks, and I put out a bet of $20 to see where we're at. The player behind us folds, but the limper and small blind decide to stick around, putting in the chips to call. The turn brings an offsuit 4, giving us 2 pair now. The small blind checks again, and I up the bet, making it $50. Both players call once more, and the river brings a pretty ugly 9, meaning anyone holding an 8's got a straight now. The small blind checks, and I put out a blocking bet for $55. The limper min raises to 110, and the small blind folds right away. We pay him off, and he shows a 10-8 for top pair that rivered the straight on us. We probably should have folded despite how small the bet was, since there's virtually no hands raising us here that we beat, so bad call on my part. Alright you guys, this is one of the more interesting hands I've played in a while, and I want you to play it along with me. What I mean by that is, as the hand progresses, I want you to comment down below with what you think the villain here is representing and what you would do on each street. Let's jump in. The under the gun player straddles to $6, and it folds all the way around to us in the small blind. We look down at ace deuce suited, and I raise it up pretty big to $25 since we're out of position. The big blind, who is the main villain in this hand, makes the call, and the straddle calls as well, so we're 3 ways to the flop. It comes down 4-3 deuce rainbow, giving us bottom pair with a gut shot draw to the wheel. I see bet first to act, making it $45. The big blind immediately raises to 100, and the straddle folds. It's not a big raise for us to call, it's basically a min raise, and I've played with this player before too. I know he can be aggressive in position, and particularly with draws or opponents who we think might have missed the board. I also find it unlikely that this player would have raised immediately with a nutted hand like a straight here, and I'm thinking worst case scenario, we might be behind top pair with a draw, or top 2 pair at worst. Considering all that, along with the fact that we've got a gut shot to go with our pair, I make the call. The turn brings the queen of hearts, which shouldn't change anything. I check it over, and he doubles the bet now, making it $200. If he did have a pair and straight draw combo, I doubt he would continue with his betting line here, since the queen is a scare card. Plus, I've shown interest in the hand on the flop after raising pre-flop. Considering all that, I go ahead and call once more to see what the river brings. We end up seeing an offsuit 4 pairing the top card from the flop. This actually feels like a really good card for us. It means there's a lot less of a chance he actually has a hand like 5-4 or 4-3, which are the types of hands I was worried this guy might show up with here. I check it over to him once more, and he fires all in.
I'm all in. I did on the river, I didn't have much luck. Or I did on the flop, I didn't have much luck.
Yeah, please.
Say you 3 flat. No, I don't care.
just the game. If you can outplay someone, it's the satisfaction. The only aspect, obviously, is nice.
All right.
You good?
Oh shit. All right.
Just good. Oh no.
Yeah, the deuce.
With the fours. The queens.
Fours and deuce. It's like, wait, what are you seeing?
Good call.
Pulling my leg. Thank you.
Alright, go ahead and leave your comment down below, right or wrong. I'm really interested to see how you all would have approached this one.
We had nothing.
I had a little something.
We played for about 40 more minutes after that last hand you watched. There was not really anything eventful that happened, but we ended up cashing out with a really nice win at the end of the night. In the 1-2 game, we were in for 300 and cashed out for 467, and in the 1-3 game, we were in for 600 and out for 2,047. So between the two, we had a total profit of about $1,589. As you've already seen in the title of the episode, that brings the bankroll up to 25K, which was my 2022 goal, and it's only April as of when this happened. Technically, we're about $70 shy on the bankroll goal, but for all intents and purposes, I'm ready to set a new goal for the year given where we're at right now. With that, I'm changing the goal for the end of the year to be 50K instead of 25K, so another $25,000 that I'm looking to earn before the end of the year. With us hitting the bankroll goal, I thought it would be a good time to share my stats to date, so I'm going to pull up my bankroll tracker and let's take a look. First, let's take a look at the chart. I think it's pretty glorious. It's mostly up. We have a couple of spots where we stagnated and had some losses, but for the most part, there's an obvious uptrend in the numbers and in the wins overall. So, nice looking chart. Remember, we started the year with a little over 10K, like I said in the bankroll, which is why if you look at the y-axis, it goes up to 15K. So we won 15K this year, added on to the 10K. That brings us up to the 25K bankroll. We played 48 sessions for a total profit so far this year of 14.3K in all. Our hourly is $108 an hour, which is pretty massive considering most of our sessions are at 1-2 no limit and some 1-3 no limit recently, with a few 2-5 games mixed in. We're profiting just shy of $300 a session with an 80% ROI, so I'm feeling pretty good about these numbers overall. With the exception of February, which was the first slump on the chart, the monthly numbers are trending upward and our hourly per month is generally trending upward too, so I'm really happy about that. We've won the most from 1-2 and 1-3, but considering how little 2-5 we've played along with one big loss we took there recently, it's actually treated us quite well. Interestingly, I tried to stay away from the PLO bomb pot games after stagnating a bit around October of last year, but if you look at the hourly rates there, the bomb pot games have actually earned me the most money, and I was surprised to see that looking at these numbers. So I might reconsider avoiding those, and maybe I'll even try some straight PLO soon, who knows. The last screen just shows our breakdown by venue, which you can see we've by far played the most hours at the Lodge, but surprisingly, we've won a good amount from 52 Social as well. So that has the highest dollar profit per hour. That's all I've got to share for the poker stats for now. Onward to 50K. As always, thanks for watching. Really appreciate you taking the time. Hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about that ace-deuce hand earlier. And otherwise, I'll see you next week. Take care.